This tofu is made out of sesame seeds. It's rich and creamy and a traditional appetizer from Japan called Goma Dofu.
Yep, this tofu is made mainly from just one ingredient, sesame seeds. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how. But before we start, a little bit of background info. This is of course not a dish that I just made up. It's actually a traditional tofu from Japan. Goma Dofu is part of Shojin Ryori, which is the Japanese Buddhist temple cooking. Because many Buddhist monks don't consume any animal products, they have long found ways to create natural plant-based foods with similar textures. And this tofu is one of those creations. It really captures the true Buddhist practice, because traditionally, all of the different steps in this recipe would be done by hand. And that means making this tofu would actually take hours. That kind of effort doesn't only develop an appreciation for the ingredients, but also for the act of actually truly savoring what one has created. Today we're gonna speed things up a little bit so you can make Goma Dofu at home from scratch, either in less than an hour using a blender, or with a little shortcut in less than 10 minutes. Let's go.
Of course, it all starts with sesame seeds. We're first going to turn them into a sesame paste. But to make Goma Dofu in just 10 minutes, you can either use ready-made nerigoma, a Japanese sesame paste, or even tahini, which is similar to nerigoma. To make the paste from scratch, start by toasting your sesame seeds. You only want to lightly toast them instead of turning them completely golden. Once it begins to smell of toasted sesame seeds and a few of the seeds are golden like this, you can turn off the heat. Then tip them into a bowl and let them cool off slightly. To make the paste, Buddhist monks would grind the sesame seeds by hand, but I'm using a powerful blender instead. Add your sesame seeds along with a sprinkle of salt, then simply run the machine until it has turned the seeds into a smooth paste like this.
Quick tip, if your blender isn't strong enough, you can add a tablespoon of sesame oil at a time until it comes together.
Now just store it in a jar until later. Our nerigoma is ready.
We actually only need 150 grams of this later, but if you use a larger batch of sesame seeds, it's easier for the blender to grind them. So I always make double or triple even, and then you can just put a lid on and store them at room temperature in a cupboard. They don't go off, it just dries out over several months, so you can really keep it for a long time. And whenever a recipe asks for sesame paste or tahini, you can use this.
Now we're using another essential ingredient of this dish, kudzu powder, which is a starch extracted from the kudzu plant. This would traditionally be another laborious part of Goma Dofu, because the starch too would be extracted by hand.
Kudzu might be difficult to get depending on where you are, but you can use other starches like potato starch or even corn flour.
Add 50 grams of the starch to a large saucepan, then pour in 500 milliliters of water and whisk until the starch has dissolved. Now add 150 grams of the nerigoma and a pinch of salt and whisk again to combine. Then place the pan over high heat. Within a few minutes it begins to thicken into a silken paste like this. Turn the heat to low and use a spatula to continue stirring the paste for another 5 minutes until it folds in ribbons and looks like this. Moisten your mold with a bit of water. Then pour in the Goma Dofu. Even out the surface, drizzle over 1 to 2 tablespoons of water to avoid it from drying out, and tap the tray to remove any air bubbles. Then let it cool off before refrigerating it for 30 minutes to let it set. After half an hour, your Goma Dofu is ready. You can now remove it from the mold, cut it into equal pieces and serve it with a bit of wasabi and a dash of soy sauce.
Here we go, Goma Dofu. It's got a little bit of wasabi on there as well. Ooh. It's so soft, so creamy. Then that soy sauce, what a combination. Just brings out that sort of toasted sesame flavor. And then you get that hit of wasabi. That is sensational. And you can just imagine that if you go through the trouble to make all of those ingredients by hand, by the time you actually get to tuck in, you have a completely different appreciation for the food you're actually eating. I feel like in a fast-moving world like today, we sort of sometimes lost that appreciation for our food. There's actually a Japanese word for that, kancha. Kancha directly translates to appreciation, but it also stands for the concept of appreciation. Because even if you made this dish with the shortcuts that we use today, by the time you're eating it, you will have developed a completely different appreciation for what you're actually eating. And from here on, whenever you're gonna eat it, be it because you make it yourself or if you're traveling through Japan, you're gonna savor that dish differently. It really is an everlasting virtue, and one of the reasons why I find that when you cook something from scratch at home, it really has the power to change how you approach food in general. But enough preaching, that's how you make Goma Dofu. You can find the recipe in the description below. And this was part of Vegan Cultures, a series where I try to show how natural, versatile and cultural plant-based food can be. If you want to support that mission, then please hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and as always, wunderbar!